Jack and Jill here.
Hi.
Welcome to the Jack Jill Show, entertaining real estate investment talk. I'm Jack Butala.
And I'm Jill DeWitt, broadcasting from sunny Southern California.
Today, Jill and I talk about forgotten real estate acquisitions. Jill got all excited before at the beginning of the show.
I know. I'm like, what is this topic about? And you
No, that's not what you said. You said, oh my God, what is this topic about now?
Thanks a lot. All right, Jack, lay it on me. What are we talking? I'm lost. Where are we going with this one?
And this is what I said. We have a database that we were, the old database that we reinstated recently. It's the one that I used actually almost before Jill, I think. There's 6,000 or 7,000 transactions in there that we declined to purchase based on mailers and stuff for a lot of reasons that we're going back through now because we're much more sophisticated and not
I can't wait to talk about
experienced.
This. Oh, I have some thoughts
awesome.
on this.
It's truly, in a real sense of the word, awesome. But before we get into that, let's take a question posted by one of our members on the JackJill.com online community. It's free.
You're right. That when you told me what the real reason, what the topic was about, a light bulb went off in my head. I just got excited. That's awesome.
We have different staff now and all of that.
Oh, so much to share. Okay. So Jason L. asks, I've been doing some research on properties in the southeast portion of the country. I'm looking for another county to mail. I'm noticing a growing trend. The land for sale is not where it's supposed to be.
What?
That's funny. There are 10 properties in Alabama, and only 3 are actually in Alabama. Where is he looking at, I wonder? Some even say they're in Colorado or Nevada, and I'm noticing this. Alabama, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, and North Carolina so far. I have not ventured outside of that area. If you have properties on Landpin, would you do a quick check for accuracy? Oh, just an observation, and it might help sell them faster because they'll be in front of the correct buyers. I only found this out because I have a buyer looking for a 3rd acre in Alabama. When I click on some of the properties, it says they're close to Pikes Peak. Hope this helps. Kevin, we have a couple of people that added some comments kind of to help this individual. So let's see what he says. What they say. Kevin F. said, Jason, when that happens to me, I have found that it is user error. In most cases, it is VA, virtual assistant error. If you don't check your listings, you'll never know. Be careful.
It's great when I don't have to answer the questions.
And Luke
echo that times 80.
S. actually added into, he says, yep, I have caught some of those from time to time. Jefferson County in many states, or Jackson County kinds of names, things grew them up too. That's true too. Sometimes you're like, there could be Jefferson County, Texas, Jefferson County, Nevada, Jefferson County, North Carolina, Jefferson County, whatever. That happens. And if you have, I have had some virtual assistants in other countries. You do have to kind of check their work because they're doing their best, but it's not perfect. So
here's the difference between men and women.
One difference?
These 3 guys that piped in, and one wrote the question and the other 2 commented, never alluded to the real issue. If it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. And that's what a woman would say. Well, wait a minute. It's Jackson County. What? That doesn't make any sense. There's no trees in that area. So if it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. And virtual assistants, God bless them, especially if they're not in this country, they just do what you tell them to do. Mm-hmm. So if you tell them to do some stuff wrong, I'm speaking about myself more than anyone.
Right.
They're not going to do it right.
Right. You have to add a little check in there about checking the county, checking the state. Maybe have a double check at the very end when they post it. Go back and look it over.
You have to have a system.
Check the county, check the state.
Exactly.
All that good stuff.
That said, I'm going to tell you a quick story about a piece of property that I bought on an Indian reservation. Yeah. If you know anything about out west here, really anywhere, you can't buy property on an Indian reservation. It's not even subdivided. There's really no APN. So it was a long, drawn out, I'm going to save everybody from it now, but we worked it all out.
That's all you're going to tell us?
And when I say worked it all out, I mean I conceded to just forget about it.
Right.
I did buy a piece of property. It was on the reservation.
I still can't.
And it is in northern Arizona, and it got subdivided incorrectly.
I'm like.
So it was one of those things where I could fight it and spend a ton of money and time on it, or I could just say, you know what, you're right, forget it.
Walk away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. It
was in a huge group of proproperties, and I wasn't staffed up to check it all.
That sounds like a revenue justification situation.
That's what it was.
Exactly. I bought 50 parcels, let's just say, was in the bundle. That was in there. I made, $850,000 off this whole thing. We can afford to walk away from that one.
In the end, what I determined is that when it got originally subdivided in the 50s or 60s, it encroached on the reservation. So at the end of the subdivision, there are a few lots that just encroached on this reservation, and I think they were right. I think the subdivider was wrong. I was wrong, and I think the res was right.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. Do you really want to go fight it?
No.
Is it worth your time? No. That's good. That was a good decision, Jack.
Yeah. Did he stop it? Forgotten real estate acquisitions. This is the meat of the show. So, as I said earlier, or alluded to really much earlier, we reinstated this old SQL-driven database that we created a long time ago. And in there is, it's called Canceled Acquisitions. So everybody knows who's in this business. You send a bunch of mail out. You send 2,000 or 3,000 mailers out. You get a lot of calls back. Some people are angry. Some people love you. And then people send mail back, and they get signed. So once you review all the positive comeback from a mailer, there's only a certain number that you can buy. And here's a few reasons why the deal looks great, but you couldn't buy it. Well, somebody passed away, or there's legal reasons. The person on the deed is not the person for whatever reason that you're talking to on the phone, and on and on and on. And we put those in canceled acquisitions. Well, if we've done almost 16,000 deals now, I can tell you there's about 6,000 to 8,000 properties in there that for whatever reason at the time we could not do the deal, or we chose not to do it. Maybe maybe the
That's
fruit,
what I was wondering too.
the fruit wasn't low hanging enough,
Right.
Or like Jill said, and she's right earlier, some of them we just couldn't find.
Right.
The technology is so different now.
Exactly. I was thinking that was the days before. Even when I started, I mean, we've only had Parcel Fact going for maybe not even a year. Have we had Parcel Fact? And you can just pop in, and I mean, here's what's going on for those who are new listening to us. Most of these properties, when you're doing rural vacant land, they do not have a street address. So good luck finding them. And the old days, we would get out GPS maps, and even that, I couldn't download them online. I had to get them from the county, and they're like literally mailing me rolls of maps. And you had to sit, and I did have, Google Earth back then, but I'm sitting there trying to, that wash looks like the wash here, and some you just couldn't find the properties. Well, nowadays, we have, and we didn't have some of the programs that we have now where I can, we have all the data where I can go to like my source. I can go in Title 365, which we and all our members have, that I can just put in the APN and I can get the center GPS coordinates. Even that's a dream. We didn't have that back then. So now, like with Parcel Fact, I can just pop in the APN and I get the whole thing. I mean, it's mapped out. It could have 19, or 23 different points on the weird parcel shape, and I got the whole thing. So that's the thing. There's a lot in there that I'm sure, Jack, that were good acquisitions, because at some point you just have to walk away. We back then are like, if I'm going to spend 2 hours longer and still try to find this property, or I'm just going to close these 6 over here. I'm just going to put that one aside.
That's right.
So.
Put that one aside. Well said. So that's what it's like. There's these 5 great ones here. They're real simple. They're easy to do. We have 2 or 3 people working with us right now. Now we have way more than that. Back then we had 2 or 3 people working. Should we really do this deal? You know what? No. Or the person wouldn't call us back.
Right.
It's as simple as that. Yeah, I love the deal. Can't get a hold of them. So illness, is a big issue in this whole industry. People are older and they're settling their estates, or their kids are settling their parents' estates, and they're just hard to get hold of because it's not a high priority. So I had my new assistant run through a couple of calls, and it worked out great. They heck yes wanted to sell. Now she's running through the whole thing.
Isn't that going to be cool?
She's running through the whole backlist.
Cool.
This isn't even the deep stuff. This is the stuff that we just kind of passed over. I don't know, in the last 3 years.
Who knows what she's going to uncover in there?
I know.
I mean, it's really cool.
I kind of thought about it like looking at, if you have an old box of coins. My dad was a coin collector. And so I still have an old box of coins, and I know nothing about coins, and I'm not really that interested in it, but I know that there's some crazy valuable stuff in there.
Right.
And me just looking at it, I don't know.
Right.
I'd have to send it somewhere and trust somebody, but it's kind of like that. It's like, what's in there?
Exactly. Like, oh my gosh, what I just found. Like, you joke about finding $1,000 in your pocket. Just like that. So that is so cool.
We just know, and a lot of it is this, really, which is why I wrote this topic. We're just so much better at this than we were even 8 or 10 years ago.
Right.
We're just more experienced. So we ask different questions from sellers to fix stuff.
Isn't that true?
And back then it was just like, I don't like the tone of your voice.
Well,
Next deal.
Well, what would you tell? Because we have a lot of new members that are running into the same thing. Like, new members are sending out mail, they get stuff back, and like one of the things that I'd say is, don't get hung up on that first deal yet. Get 10 in and review them. See how much money you have to spend, your acquisition funds, and buy so you can afford 5. Great, buy the top 5. What would be your advice to them for moving forward so they don't get in the situation, or maybe everybody will. I mean, is this just inevitable?
Yes.
Oh.
But your question is correct, entirely correct. Number one, keep track of it. Make sure it's in a database somewhere, and you give it a status called canceled or overlooked, or the fruit was too high, or pass, or yeah. Number two, what we didn't have back then and we have now is a group of people.
Yeah.
So what if there are groups of people in here? The number one reason that the properties got passed over was the fact that we couldn't directly and very easily title it. So we looked at it, we loved the price, but the person we were talking to, it was in someone else's name, usually their parents. Their parents passed away. The property didn't properly get conveyed before they passed away, so it had to be part of an estate, and that none of that was done correctly, mostly because the kids didn't even know the parents owned it.
Right.
And they got a tax bill the next day after the next year,
right, after
the estate was settled. So there are people in our group that specialize in that, quiet titling property and all that. And I would take that property. Here's my advice. I wouldn't let it go to waste. I would send it over to someone else in our group who specializes in that and split it with them.
I hate to tack on work, but you're making me think about some stuff, because I honestly just had a member reach out to me literally yesterday, and I forwarded it to our team, because they're like, hey, I heard you guys talk about some of these deals that you pass on, because now I'm sure this is what's going to happen too. As she's going back through this inventory, there are some that we would still pass on because they're too small. They don't meet our criteria. I don't need to buy things for $500 and sell it for $1,500.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people in our group, they're like, oh, I would love those deals, because we've already done the work, and queued them all up, and I have all the contact information. So that we probably should, not to create work for anybody on our staff that might be listening, but this is one of the reasons they don't listen to the show. So anyway, they don't know what's coming. But we should probably bring that back too and make that. That's why I started our deal board way back when, was so I could just throw things in there. And then I just got so busy I haven't been able to update the deal board.
Right.
So our members are already doing this with each other, like you're talking about.
Very successfully.
Yeah. And we want to make sure everybody's like sharing, these estate situations. We have people in our group that can.
If somebody's got a good idea about how to orchestrate this, I'd be happy to do it.
Yeah.
Because here's the problem. Okay, great. We have this $500 deal. It takes a little bit more effort than we're used to, and it's too small for us. What do? Post it on Deal Board. 900 people want it. Who do we give it to?
Right.
Then, how do we track it?
Yeah.
Did it close? Did it not close? Is there some kind of mechanical? There's just a lot of issues with it.
I'm tempted to bring in somebody to work for free and just give them they want to manage them or take them. I don't care. Here you go.
If anybody who's ever had kids, you can't just give one kid an ice cream cone. The other one will rip their eyes out. And I don't want to. And then at some point,
it's like how Jack.
At some point, both parents look at each other and they say, let's just not get any ice cream at all.
Oh, Jack, I love it. You're famous for telling different kids different things. It's like the same thing. You're my favorite. You're my favorite. You're my favorite. Depending on the day and the situation. I think that's hilarious. I love it.
When they're all together, I love saying, I love two of you very much.
Yeah.
And there's three of them.
I know. It's not cool.
I think it is.
It's just not cool. Jack, thank you.
Hey, number one, if you're listening to this at all, you're on the top of my list right now.
Oh, yeah, she is.
She is rocking it.
Yep, she is.
For a lot of reasons.
That is awesome.
Well, you've done it again. You wasted another 25 minutes listening to the Jack and Jill Show. Join us tomorrow where we discuss how retirement just stopped being a goal after a while. This is so easy.
Oh, this is a good one. And we answer your questions should you have one. Post it on the JackJill.com online community. It is free.
You are not alone in your real estate ambition.
You know, it's funny, this topic, because we constantly have properties that would go, it seems like sometimes there's more no's than yeses, you know what I mean? Because I've just taken, I can be picky.
Here's what my assistant's having a tremendous amount of luck with. Not luck, she's very skilled, but what's working for her. So we went back through the list, and she said, this Apache County 40-acre property, everybody agreed to a $6,000 price. What's the problem? And she's staring at me. Mm-hmm. And it's a good question. Mm-hmm. I said, the problem is the price. Look at it. The property's good. The whole thing. And we're just not kind of into this anymore. Mm-hmm. What if I can get it for $2,000 then? That's what she says. Mm-hmm. And then I walk away. This is just one example. Mm-hmm. And she comes back and says, I got it for $2,500. Now, how do you say no to that?
Right.
98% of the work's done.
Exactly.
There's like 500,000 properties. Not 500,000. There's about 5,000 properties in there.
Yeah,
like that.
There's a lot. Yeah, I can't. This is good.
The other thing that we didn't talk about in the real show is that the seller's situation has changed dramatically over the last 10 years.
Oh, yeah. They still have it?
Own it?
Oh,
if they
my
still own it, you can name
gosh.
your price.
That's very true.
And I asked her, I said, please ask them if they remember talking to us.
That's funny.
Because if they do, if they remember talking to us 4 years ago,
right,
and nothing happened, they've been paying the taxes now for 4 more years.
Exactly.
It's not hard.
Yep. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Hey, share the fun by subscribing on iTunes or wherever you're listening. And while you're at it, please rate us there. We are Jack and Jill.
Information
and inspiration
to buy undervalued property.